Wait, hold on. You found me just some sergeant in the Corps? I thought you said you found another Spartan.
No, I did. Listen. There's more than meets the eye here, okay? Just read through it.
Okay, look, don't get me wrong. Every soldier in the UNSC is a hero in my eyes, but... let's see, 87-year-old soldier can't be that much of a story. I mean, come on, 87? What was he even doing around 2550, beating the Covenant with a walking cane?
No, you don't. Check his combat summary. I promise you this man has more secrets about him than most Spartans.
Well, that can't be true. Let me have a look. Surely there's no... Wait. Battle of Installation 04, Battle of Installation 05, Battle of Installation 00. Holy crap. This guy must have been with the Master Chief throughout everything. How did you even stumble across this guy? I would have probably slipped over his name if it were me.
I told you, man. This guy's been through everything. I mean, think about it. The Master Chief was one of the only survivors of the first Halo ring. But did you ever think to ask who the other survivors were?
I can't believe it. Mate, I owe you big time. Thank you for finding this file. The Truth Seekers are going to love this.
Is that what you're calling your little followers on Waypoint now? Truth Seekers?
Well, technically I'm not posting the recordings on Waypoint, and secondly, yeah, I guess so.
Listen, just make sure it's untraceable. Once the agency catches on, they're gonna know somebody's on the inside, and I don't want them finding out it's me, okay?
Absolutely, mate, of course. You're safe, don't worry.
Alright, I gotta go. They're gonna kill me if I don't finish tracking this assignment. Talk to you later, alright?
Yeah. I'll see you later, bud. Take care.
Peace.
Well, alright. Let's get started. Sergeant Avery Johnson. Born in the heavily industrialized megacity of Chicago back on Earth, this Marine was born with grit, bravery, and confidence. Annoyingly, his file can't pinpoint his exact birth date, but it mentions that he was born between 2477 and 2482. The inaccuracies in his file are unclear to me, but my theory is that maybe he smudged the details of his age to join the Corps, which wouldn't actually surprise me with this man. He was supposedly 19 when he signed up for the Marines. When the recruiter asked the young man why he wanted to join, he gave a brief statement saying, "An old lady of mine told me to work for something I believe in." Apparently, Avery was motivated by devastation and destruction going on in the outer colonies, and he wanted to put a stop to that. And all it took was one inspiring prep talk from his aunt. After passing his initial training, Johnson was sent on multiple training courses, one of which was the highly classified Orion project, now renamed as the Spartan 1 project. That's right, this sergeant wasn't just some jarhead in the Corps, he was a Spartan. Maybe not the kind like the Master Chief that had fancy suits of energy-powered armour, but he was technically a Spartan. However, this Spartan wasn't out to fight the Covenant. Back then, the Covenant wasn't the biggest problem at the time, it was the insurrectionists. I'm sure most of you are aware of our recent human histories, so I won't delve too deep into that. But to say the very least, Avery Johnson worked hard dealing with whatever insurrectionist operations the UNSC assigned him to. One of his assignments, however, proved to be of extreme difficulty. His unit at the time, led by Staff Sergeant Burns, was tasked with hunting down a highly dangerous target the UNSC had been tracking, along with a little help from ONI. With the right intel, they managed to find an insurrectionist explosive manufacturer, capable of making highly effective and experimental explosives that could potentially level entire cities. As the unit came into contact with the rebels, there were complications, and eventually led to the team cornering the man in a diner, and luck was not on their side, as the rebel decided to take a civilian hostage, but not just a civilian hostage, a child. The Marines surrounded the diner, and Sergeant Johnson had to take a shot at the target with a provided sniper rifle. This is where it gets distressing. Unfortunately, Johnson choked. He couldn't take the shot. Because of the positioning, the bullet would have passed straight through the child to kill the target. After hesitating for too long, he ran out of time, and an explosive was triggered on a vehicle in the surrounding area, causing mass amounts of destruction. Not only killing everyone in the diner, but also multiple Marines in the process. I can hardly blame the man for hesitating in that situation. It takes more than a man to take a shot like that. After this assignment, he was cycled back to Chicago, where he was quickly hit by a second disaster. The closest and only family the man had left died. His auntie passed away, and after already dealing with trauma from his job, this really sent him over the edge. He went AWOL, getting himself into a colossus bar fight and all kinds of trouble that night he returned. In the morning, he found himself to be waking up in a gutter with a Marine Corps recruiter staring down at him. They notified that he had a new assignment and was sent to the outer colony planet known as Harvest, where he began militia training. However, the training took an unexpected turn as a lieutenant commander, name redacted, from ONI gave Sergeant Johnson, as well as 3 other Marines, a special assignment, and was tasked with investigating stolen cargo from various merchant vessels. So, a decoy ship was set up with the 4 Marines as the crew members. Their orders were to neutralise what was thought to have been pirates. Well, they found pirates alright, but it wasn't any kind of pirates they'd seen before, because this was first contact the UNSC ever had with the Covenant. A Jackal pirate ship quickly intercepted their decoy and came aboard for their supplies. However, instead of the Jackals being met with unarmed humans, they were introduced to the UNSC's finest. And get this, Sergeant Johnson was the first man to kill an alien. After quickly realising that they were hostile, their exchange quickly turned sour, and Sergeant Johnson acquired first blood in the Human Covenant War. Once learning of aliens, Johnson and his squad returned to the colonial militia back on Harvest, where they informed ONI Lieutenant Commander of their findings. Not long after they'd settled back onto Harvest, a Covenant ship appeared over Harvest and deployed a brute chieftain and a few of his forces, along with the chieftain's nephew known as Tartarus. After short negotiations between humans and the Covenant, the Battle of Harvest soon began, and Sergeant Johnson was tasked with evacuating what civilian populations he could. A year later, Sergeant Johnson was recalled to the UNSC Everest, where he met with Admiral Preston Cole and Dr. Catherine Halsey. It was here where he would learn about the Spartan 2 program and meet Spartan 117 for the first time, assisting the Spartans with information surrounding the Covenant and helping with intel for Operation Silent Storm. After viewing other operations, it seems Johnson had been involved in the Battle of Paris 4. When the Covenant attacked, Sergeant Johnson fought valiantly and managing impressive feats with a large amount of plasma grenades, which he had, in his words here, borrowed from the Covies. After multiple more operations, the main campaigns that stand out to me are his involvement in the Fall of Reach and the battles across the Forerunner installations. During the Battle of Reach, he was sent to the orbital research station known as Gamma Station for a search and destroy op. Whilst there, the Covenant attacked, and only some of the Marines accompanying Johnson, including a Private Wallace Jenkins, were quickly saved by the Spartan Blue Team. Once finishing the firefight among Gamma Station, they escaped back to the now fleeing Pillar of Autumn with Spartan John 117 and a critically injured Spartan Linda 053. After a supposedly random slip space jump engaged by Captain Keyes and Cortana, the Pillar of Autumn was jumped to the location of the first found Halo ring, known as Installation 04. Wow, this guy saw everything. During their time in slipspace, Johnson, Jenkins and the Master Chief got some time to recuperate before engaging the enemy once more. Once out of slipspace, the Pillar of Autumn was damaged beyond repair and was forced to crash land onto the newly found Halo. Sergeant Johnson escaped using a Bumblebee escape pod, crash landing close to an unknown structure on the ring. Once they had boots on the ground, what remained of the survivors quickly began a defensive perimeter around the weird structure, fighting off what Covenant chased them down. Just as Johnson finished emptying a mag into the last wave, Spartan 117 regrouped with Johnson after crash landing not too far away from himself. Another quote here from Johnson's file says, "Until he showed up, I thought we were cooked." An understandable testament after being saved from Spartan 117 yet again. Once the Master Chief helped fight off the Covenant, Johnson evacuated to what was now Alpha Base, where he would await for the surviving crew of the Autumn to regroup. Once Cortana and Master Chief had returned, the survivors planned to rescue the now captive Captain Jacob Keyes from the Covenant corvette known as the Truth and Reconciliation. Under the cover of night, Sergeant Johnson, assisted by the Master Chief and a squad of ODSTs, recovered the imprisoned captain. After the rescue, Sergeant Johnson was assigned to drop into a swamp suspected of some kind of weapon cache on the ring, and pushed his way through enemy forces with Captain Keyes on his 6. During his push into the Forerunner facility, they began to slowly uncover more evidence of another threat. As they found a sealed room, the squad of Marines entered. According to a past interview, when asked, the sergeant simply would not speak about what happened, only saying that he shouldn't have survived that ordeal. Apparently, this was our first ever contact with the entity known as the Flood. And unfortunately, they don't exactly talk about this too often around ONI, so I'll have to dig a little deeper on that one. After managing to escape this new threat known as the Flood, Sergeant Johnson found his way out of the facility and fought his way through the remaining flood surrounding the area. Another statement here says that according to him, the Flood didn't have a taste for him, whatever that means. Now, he doesn't seem to say much here, but he did manage to escape the destruction of Installation 04 by the hands of the Master Chief. How he did is still a mystery. After escaping the Halo on a Pelican with a small number of other survivors, the squad located Spartan 117 in a longsword, also escaping the ring's destruction. They linked up and came across a Covenant ship known as Ascendant Justice. Once in control of the ship, the Master Chief decided it would be best to return to Reach rather than to Earth, due to the Cole Protocol. Following Spartan 117's instructions, the squad began a course to the now glassed planet. From here, Johnson played a small role in Operation First Strike, meeting up with Dr. Catherine Halsey and assisting the remaining Spartans. After the Battle of Installation 04 and the completion of Operation First Strike, Johnson returned to Earth for a debrief upon the Cairo Orbital Station. It was here where he was promoted to Sergeant Major and was awarded for other numerous acts of bravery. However, during the promotion ceremony, the orbital station was attacked and the Covenant had found Earth. After discovering what the Covenant had been planning by witnessing an orbital station blow up, Johnson did what he could to assist the Master Chief reach the destination of the bomb they had implanted on Cairo Station. With some remarkable and spectacular luck, the Master Chief gave the Covenant back their bomb. And Sergeant Johnson, along with Commander Miranda Keyes, picked up the Spartan and took the fight to the surface of Earth, in the streets of New Mombasa. After deploying from amber-clad frigate, 3 Pelicans, including Sergeant Johnson, was deployed and quickly shot down by a Covenant Scarab. Most, however, including the Spartan 117, survived the crash. As the Marines fought through the streets, Johnson was once again picked up and in a Pelican and began raining fire from the air. After the Battle of New Mombasa, Johnson was thrown into slip space through a portal using the amber-clad frigate as a means to pursue the now fleeing Prophet of Regret. Once exiting slip space, the frigate and its crew were surprised by the realization that they had just found another Halo ring, known as Installation 05, Delta Halo. As the pursuit for the Prophet of Regret continued, the Master Chief was one of the first, along with some ODSTs, to touch down to the surface of the second ring. The Master Chief fought through Delta Halo, eventually losing all contact with the UNSC. With the Master Chief silent, Johnson and Commander Keyes went in search of an index key in the library of the Halo. It was here where they were both captured by the previously mentioned brute known as Tartarus, now Chieftain, after the fall of his uncle. During their capture, they managed to be rescued by the Arbiter. That's right, the one that worked alongside the Chief. The Arbiter rescued Sergeant Johnson in his own pursuit to take revenge on Tartarus and his brutes. This was the very early stages of the Covenant Schism. Once freed, Johnson managed to find himself a scarab and take control whilst the Arbiter fought it out with the remaining brutes that were imprisoning the Sergeant. Sergeant Johnson and the Arbiter was the first known alliance between human and Senghale, and together they fought their way to the control room where they neutralised the brute chieftain Tartarus, saved Commander Keyes, and stopped the activation of the ring, saving billions of life forms. It was here where Johnson was told of the Ark by the monitor of the first Halo ring humanity had found, known as 343 Guilty Spark. The Ark, also known as Installation 00, was the remote control centre of the entire Halo array. Once being informed of the much more dangerous threat of total extinction, their newly formed allies made their way back to Earth. The Second Battle of Earth was now at hand, and after losing contact with the Master Chief for some time, Sergeant Johnson was ordered to find Spartan 117 that had crash-landed in the African jungles not too far away from the city of Voi. After regrouping and recovering the Master Chief, Sergeant Johnson battled his way through brutes and grunts, eventually finding himself back at the makeshift base known as the Crow's Nest. Commander Keyes, running remote operations of the base, ordered Johnson and the Master Chief to evacuate once the base had been discovered by the Covenant. As they did, they eventually found themselves in the city of Voi, and in the presence of a scarab that had stopped them in their tracks. However, once dealt with, they moved along and proceeded with their objectives. As Chief destroyed the anti-air gun, the UNSC was ordered by Lord Admiral Hood to fire at the Forerunner keyship that the Prophet of Truth had landed. However, as the attack commenced, the Prophet activated the portal to the Ark. With no choice but to follow, Commander Keyes took command of a frigate through the portal. It was here where humanity discovered the Ark. As forces were sent to the ground, Sergeant Johnson took to the air using a Pelican and mounting a high-caliber machine gun on the passenger bay. Once successful with their task to the cartographer, the Allied forces had found the location of the control room for the Ark. The Allies pressed on to stop the Prophet of Truth from wiping out the universe. Not all things went according to plan, as during the operation, Sergeant Johnson was taken hostage. With no time to spare, Commander Keyes boarded a Pelican and stop the activation before the Prophet could follow his plan through. Unfortunately, the dramatic entrance failed as Miranda Keyes was killed in the process, taking several spiker rounds to the back. As Johnson was in shock of the events, the Prophet forced his hand and began the activation of the Halo array. Before it could fire, however, Spartan 117 once again saved the universe, along with the allied Arbiter at his side. His last known entry in his file is noted that he joined Spartan 117 and the Arbiter at a now newly formed Halo installation, in replacement of Installation 04. In order to stop the flood and destroy the Ark, Sergeant Johnson tried to activate the Halo, but was promptly stopped by the monitor 343 Guilty Spark. It was here where he died in the arms of Spartan 117, spending his life fighting for humanity's future. The last entry here was actually told to investigating agents by the Arbiter himself, telling them that he was nothing but brave and strong. The Arbiter gave his condolences and paid respect at the ceremony. Yet another hero in the fight for humanity's survival. The man did more than what most average soldiers would do in a century. The man was nothing but remarkable. And I guess I have to thank my agent buddy on the inside for this file. Rest in peace, Sergeant Johnson. Alrighty, this was quite a long one. Took me quite a while getting everything together here. I just want to say a massive thanks to First Pass for his involvement as the agent on the inside, so to speak. So please go check First Pass's channel out. He makes great content, as you can see on the screen here. Anyway, now for my Patreons. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. You people help me out immensely, and you are very, very much appreciated. So massive thanks to Liam Robertson and Corporal Hot Pockets. If you want to be in my next video, or maybe just have a chat, then join my Discord. There's tons of people just like me and you that will welcome you with open arms. Anyway, that's it for today. Peace.